I'm Laura Jacobson. I'm the Chief Purpose Activist here at Zero North. And part of my role is to collaborate with industry, regulators, and nonprofits to drive the green transition of global trade and help us reach zero emissions. Zero North, as a climate tech company, utilizes our platform and partnerships to accelerate this green transition, which is why it's so important for us to be here with you today, because global trade is global. And we need a strong Europe to unite us and support us. So therefore, I'm honored to introduce all of our 4 candidates, and thank you so much for joining us today. So we have Stine Bosse from the Moderates, Henrik Dahl from Liberal Alliance, Rasmus Nordqvist, from the LF, the Green Left, and Magnus Barsøe from the Social Democratic Party. Did I do a okay job?
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Barsøe.
Yeah.
Barsøe. Okay, I practiced that a lot this weekend.
Oh, that's very good.
So the elections are just a few weeks away, so today is your opportunity to have a chance to meet these very exciting candidates. The last 10 minutes will be reserved for Q&A, so if you can hold your comments and questions till the end, we will have time for that. And now I'd like to ask each of you to take 2 minutes to introduce yourself, but also say why this election and why the EU is more important today than it was 5 years ago. So, Stine, would you like to start?
Thank you so much. My name is Stine Bosse, or in English-speaking countries, Christine Bosse. I've spent 35 years within business, the latest including building water power stations in Greenland as the chair for Nuna Green, and also, of course, exploiting how to think about hydrogen potentials in Greenland. I've also spent quite a while in the financial sector. I've also spent quite a while in several NGOs, one of them being Concito, the Danish green think tank. So I actually was interested in climate change and what is happening globally for many, many years, also as a CEO in Tryg, the insurance company. So I decided this time when I was invited to join this election that this was the time now right for me. I can't hide away, I'm 63. My mother was a child during the war in London, and she actually just vaccinated me with first EF and later EU. So for me, 3 main subjects: security, and in many aspects security, not just defense, but in many, many aspects security for Europe, also actually having arms reaching out into the globe. Second, climate, and I can't really choose between them, but I have to be facing reality and say, I mean, what can we do about climate if we are sort of not here? So security probably has a slight upper hand. Otherwise, climate change, it is, it's just something we have to deal with. And my party will never, ever shy away from dealing with these subjects. And we will have to do it together with both Green Left parties and hopefully, preferably also with Henrik and his party. That I'm a little bit more uncertain about, but you can ask him. And then, of course, the final subject for us is migration. We have a big security issue at the outer borders, and we need to deal with it, and we need to deal with it together.
Thank you so much. Henrik?
Thank you very much. My name is Henrik Dahl. I am a member of our national parliament, and I've been so since 2015. In our national parliament, I am the deputy chairman of the Foreign Policy Committee. The Foreign Policy Committee is mandated by the Constitution to oversee the foreign policy of the government. Our Constitution stipulates that foreign policy is run by the government, but it's overseen by Parliament, and there has to meet approval in Parliament. So that's what we do. So I spent many years working with foreign policy issues, and that's why it's natural for me to seek election to the European Parliament this time. President Macron of France held an interesting speech at the Sorbonne University a few weeks ago where he said that you can't take Europe for granted. And I think that ought to be the point of departure for any discussion about Europe these days. We can't take Europe for granted. I think in the global division of labor, there's a real risk that the role of Europe will be to act as the museum of the world. So people will come here from all across the world to see our ruins. Of course, Roman ruins and medieval ruins and so on, but if we are not careful, also the ruins of the welfare society and our social model. So we really have to be careful about the future. The main issue this time at the election is going to be security in a very broad sense of the word. See, the problem with Europe is that security has been taken out of the equation, irrespective of what you were working with for 25 years. And we sort of have to factor in security again with global division of labor, with energy, with the green transition, with the external borders. So security is going to be the main issue, and these are also the main elements of our electoral platform. That and competitiveness, which is also a major problem. I will leave it at that. And
Fantastic. Luckily, those are all the things we're going to be talking about today. So, Rasmus, please.
Thank you. My name is Rasmus. My background is fashion design. I was working in the fashion industry around Europe until 2015, when I was elected for the Danish Parliament, where I've served for 2 periods. The last 2 years, I've been part of the committee of the European Green Party, which is the European Party gathering all the green parties from around both EU and outside of EU in Europe. What's interesting is that back in 2019, when we had the last European election, we actually had the climate election that I was hoping for many years. And we've seen for the last 5 years, a lot of things happened. Therefore, it's also sad to say that right now, almost this election is about just
Hanging on.
securing the Green Deal instead of actually setting up higher ambitions, higher goals, and even more action, because that's what's needed right now. European Green Party and SF, my Danish party, we are running on a platform to create a new green and social deal for Europe, because it's about taking the 2 agendas at the same time. It's about creating jobs, housing opportunities, to get youth on board as well. Right now we see in certain part of Europe that the youth is actually left behind, and we need to actually create an inclusive Europe for everyone. Of course, security is a big issue, but also, I mean, if we don't act on the biodiversity and climate crisis, we're going to see even more insecurity, we're going to see even more wars opening up. So let's now 2024 be the year where we're actually facing that all these agendas are interlinked. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yes, and Magnus?
Thank you. So my name is Magnus Barsøe, which is difficult to pronounce, I guess. I'm 43 years old. I live here in Amager, actually not that far from here, with my wife and my 2 kids, Buster and Kalle, 7 and 4. And I like to, sometimes I tell people that for a year ago or so, I was standing at home and yelling at the TV.
This is the first time in English, though.
And my wife told me to either shut up or do something about it, and that's what I decided to do. So I've had a career in journalism. I'm educated as a business economist, but worked in Politiken, a Danish newspaper, and Jyllandsposten, a different Danish newspaper. I started in Financial Times in London, and I did that for like 10 years. And I like to say sometimes that I'm also like to focus on numbers, because what is this election actually about? We can stand here and tell you guys that it's probably the most important election for the European Parliament in a generation. But what does that actually mean? I like to focus on one number, that's 91. So 91% of all
Solar
solar
panels.
panels in put up in Europe in the last 5 years are produced in China. And I think they even probably own a larger percentage of the mining industry, which is lithium, cobalt, and different minerals that they put into these solar panels before they export them to Europe. And I think when we social democrats talk about climate change, and the necessity to act on climate change. We talk about, obviously, it's a moral responsibility for the next generation, but it's also a matter of security and independence. And at the current state of affairs, we are sort of like we are at the mercy of Xi Jinping in China, and I'm actually deeply, deeply worried about that scenario. I used to study in Hong Kong, so I take a very, I would say, cynical and pragmatic view on China. I think they could easily invade Taiwan within the next 5 or 10 years. And where will that actually leave Europe? That will leave Europe with our green sector placed in China. So we need to have production facilities back in Europe. I think we need a Green Deal that is more focused on perhaps production and innovation than just innovation. So that 91% is an important number. And obviously, just to catch up or wrap up in the end here. So Ukraine, security issue, that's what the election is about. I was in Ukraine in December. And I agree with the other people in the panel that climate change and acting on climate change is obviously, on the medium term, one of the most important things for us as a species. But I will also be honest with you guys and say that for the next half a year or maybe 12 months, one of the most important things for all responsible politicians in Europe is to secure that Ukraine will not lose that war. And they are about to lose that war if we don't step up. And that's very, very important to say. So all the other things that we will do, I mean, great. But it's incredibly important that Putin doesn't win. And the third thing, security, Ukraine, climate, and jobs. And the third thing would be, I'm kind of also worried about the European Parliament, how it is turning to be a bit more right-leaning. We see progressives getting beat, not physically, but politically in Europe, and I'm very concerned what that means for women's rights and so on. In
Actually, also physically.
And also physically, that's actually true.
Yes.
So it's a very important election, and I think we can all agree on that.
Yes. Thank you so much.